called the retrogressive restoration of the persona, which is basically this in simple terms. Who I am today is no longer who I want to be. I've got to change. There's a lot of things that happen in our life, and it's like, fuck it. There's no choice but to change now. I have to do this. So then you go on a bit of a journey. You might meet your mentor. If you talk about the hero's journey and the meaning of the mentor, teaches you a bunch of things. You get this insight, intellectual understanding around who you are, why your life is the way that it is. So you can't unlearn that stuff, and that's the problem, because ignorance is no longer bliss. It's a choice at this particular point. So then you start making your subtle adjustments and your changes, and then you're getting tested, and you start implementing the tools, skills, and resources and strategies that you're being taught by someone who's, ahead of the game. And then you start moving into this new version of yourself, but you still haven't bolstered that sense of self yet, that new identity. So you keep going back into the old one, but you can't fit back into who you used to be because you just know way too much now. So you go from one to another over a period of time. And that's where we hear self-sabotage that occurs, because I don't know who I am. I kind of got a bit of a concept of who I'm becoming, but I haven't really got certainty in that person yet. So I might go back out here and go back to the same environment, hang out with my old friends, get on the piss and drugs and all those types of things. But then you've got the void in between, which is no man's land. I don't know who the fuck I am. And that's a really scary place for a lot of people to be. So that's where accountability comes into it. So being self-accountable at that particular point where you don't have, when you have poor impulse control and emotional weakness, you don't have that stability and strength in yourself just yet. You need someone holding your feet to the fire. So that you do the work so you can create and manifest that new reality, and you bolster that new sense of self and that new identity. And that's where accountability comes into it. But accountability, what a lot of coaches don't recognize, is that that can create a form of codependency as well. Yeah. Because then you're not actually, the primary objective is to teach someone to become independent, but they have to develop it depending in that therapeutic relationship dynamic, which is you're now depending on me to teach you how to operate as a cohesive whole. So then the person has to, the person who's going through the transformation has to relinquish their control and the know-it-all, because that's their sense of certainty, and they've just got to let it sort of take over from there. For long enough that they structure and maintain their life in a certain way that they're now self-sufficient, they're now emotionally self-reliant, and then they just, you go, off you go live your life, your job is done. But when people talk about 12-week transformations, what you can embed in someone is very little. What they get to experience can be a lot, but because there's such a strong reflex to going back to the world and everything that we know it to be, we have this strong reflex to go back to that. It's very hard for us to maintain that the course of action to really formalize and solidify and cement in that new identity without accountability.
Yeah. It's like unscrambling an egg to start with, to unwind the old patterns of behaviour that have been sort of embedded for the whole life, to then rebuilding.
So when someone changes me, you see them in a number of years and you're like, you've experienced significant transformation. That is worth so much acknowledgement, man. Like for someone to change, it's just so much, man. Like they have to give up. They're not only grieving the loss of their old self, and they've had to stumble forward in an absolute mess to get to the position where they have arrived at now. They're grieving the old version of themselves. They're grieving friends. They're grieving family. And I put this post on Instagram this morning. It's like, just be prepared if you want to change. There's going to be a lot that you have to give up, and that's uncomfortable. So when someone transforms, you know that they've been doing the work for a fucking long time, and you know that someone's transformed because they stop hanging around with the people that they used to.